Hello everyone, welcome to the Rundown. Thanks to AGL for all your energy needs. Go to agl.com.au, great supporters of the West Coast Eagles. Well, we're almost out of Subiaco Oval, and a man who made Subiaco his own throughout his illustrious career for the club is Andrew Embley, Norm Smith-Miller's premiership player, and a man who covered many games and training sessions, Ryan Daniels from 7 News. Boys, welcome. Start with you, Wack. Most famous and most memorable moment here at Subiaco Oval?
Well, plenty of great memories of Subiaco Oval, and I certainly was fortunate enough to be a part of a few of those memories. But I remember one particular game in 2007 when Ben Cousins had been away for a while. He came back. It was his first game back, and I remember just hearing this one of the loudest roars at Subiaco I've ever heard, and I was thinking, what is this? And the ball's down the other end, no one was having a shot for goal, and it was Ben Cousins coming onto the ground, and obviously the supporters got behind him, and I think he hadn't played for almost 6 months and came out and had, I think, career high possessions that particular game. That was a fantastic moment. I don't think the roar's ever been louder here. All the finals that were played here, the derbies, I reckon that was the biggest roar. It was quite stunning. For me, there was a moment a couple of years back when Phil Walsh had died, and the West Coast Eagles and Adelaide Crows played here, and that there was a couple of moments that they had just to dedicate some silence to Phil Walsh, and we know that the relationships that John Worsfold had with him as well. It was quite a stunning moment to be a part of. I think that will always stick out for me amongst all the great games and the moments from the stars that have played here. But for me, that one was hard to top.
I'll be a little bit self-indulgent, if I may, here. Let's take you back to 1976, if we can, boys. Took a mark in the goal square. The Little League was across the oval, of course, like the old days. There was no one else on the ground. It was Subiaco versus Claremont. The siren sounded. I had a shot from the top of the goal square and missed. And the home team, Subi, had to run 3/4 of the oval around past the fans waving. And Claremont, with a away team, they had to run the short jab right underneath the three-tier stand. I was in tears all the way around because I had cost Subiaco Little League a victory. Not one of my great memories, not one of my great moments. Let's talk about this weekend's game. Sunday, it is the Sydney Swans. And again, it's a venue where we just can't win at West Coast. The game is at 1:20. Boys, Reid, Franklin, they're together now. They're back in the combination, and they've got the small man, Papley. Who runs the danger? Ryan, who is the danger? Who's the one the West Coast Eagles have to go to?
Look, Buddy's the obvious answer, but Buddy isn't quite the same Buddy that he has been over the years. He's still working his way back into form after not doing hardly anything in the pre-season. The one you mentioned there, Tom Papley, he is the danger man. When he is up and about, Sydney look like a completely different team. Now, for those who don't know much about him, he's a tiny little nugget of a bloke. He's hard as nails, and he can kick a goal, and he's a great little runner. So he's interesting. I think they'll have to put Tom Cole on him, who does a fantastic job on small forwards. So I think that's the matchup there. And if we want to talk matchups about the bigger guys, there's plenty of options they can go with. I mean, the obvious one is Buddy. Is it Schofield? Is it as simple as that, or is there some other option?
Well, I think Schofield starts with him. I think the smaller ground, you wouldn't expect Buddy to be able to find plenty of space, especially the fact that he's not 100% fit at the moment. So I think if I was West Coast, I'd be happy to say Schofield, you just go match up on Buddy. Reid's an interesting one, and obviously McGovern's the next best tall, but I'd say leave McGovern do what he does, and he does that very well, those intercept marks. I'd be inclined to start Shepherd on him, so Shepherd plays a bit tall, okay, maybe giving him a little bit of height, but I reckon Shepherd can actually work him over, and I agree with you, Tom Cole. I think Tom Cole's a really good matchup for Papley because he's got the pace, he's got the strength to be able to go with him and basically shadow him around, and that allows obviously McGovern to be able to play his normal role.
The good thing about having Oscar Allen in the team too is that you have a backup plan.
Flexibility,
so
isn't there?
With Sam Reid, that almost height-wise and size-wise, almost a perfect matchup. Reid's in pretty good form. He kicked 6 2 weeks ago against the Pies, so we can't ignore him.
In a moment, I'm going to ask you about the mid-season draft, if there was one for next year, or what the West Coast Eagles would need going forward if they were to enter a mid-season draft in 2020. But I do have a letter, and I'm going to share this with you before we move on. And this is a letter to Andrew, to Ryan and to Tim. Love the rundown, guys. Thanks to AGL, club sponsor. The question is, statement more so, Andrew, so far on the rundown, you have mentioned 2 John Worsfold medalists, one being Tom Barras, who hasn't played a game since, and Shannon Hulme was on a 47-game streak of consecutive games, has done a hamstring after you declared him to win the Worsfold medal. Please refrain from mentioning any other stars winning the Worsfold medal on the rundown. Yours sincerely, Adam Simpson.
I was going to say, can we see that letter?
I was about to say, thank you, Mrs. Gossage, for the letter that Tim told you to write.
What is going on? But everyone's on your side last week.
Well, they should be. I'm a man of the people, Tim. Okay, they relate to what I have to say, okay? Tom Barras is playing extremely well. Yes, he might have got injured, but he'll be back. Okay, Shannon Hearn, he's just having a rest. You know, the guy is nearly 35 years of age.
Saying that, my tip in the pre-season was Brad Shepherd, and he's coming through like Bradbury because everyone else is just falling over around him.
Ryan who, according to Facebook? Now, let's talk about what the Eagles need in a mid-season draft, Andrew. If the Eagles have their squad, what area should they be targeting to recruit someone for next year?
Well, firstly, I just want to say my thoughts around the mid-season draft. I think the reason why it was introduced was to allow clubs to be able to get players into their team that they may have lost during the year, okay? So replace a midfielder with midfielder, back with the back. Now, I think clubs were smart enough to exploit that, okay? And getting 19 and 20-year-old kids into their system, they were playing Colts football, not even actually dominating Waffle or VFL, was not the reason why it was introduced. But they had to get them now, in fear of missing out on these kids at the national draft. And I don't think that was the reason. Now, it was brought in. Now, Jai Bolton, who I've watched very closely, you can't tell me Jai Bolton is not the best midfielder in the competition with Daylight second at the moment, okay? He is as good, in my opinion, as Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly gets an opportunity, Jai Bolton doesn't, okay? So that's the reason why the mid-season draft was introduced, to be able to allow players like Jai Bolton and other players in around the country at the second level dominating to get that chance to be able to come in and play.
You're going by what should be done. Teams are smart. They will work around the rules that are set to them. So if you want that, then an age limit has to be put in.
That's what happens next year.
Right, you have to say, well, you have to have played 100 games of VFL or Sandful or Waffle, or you have to be 22 or older. You can't just say, everybody do the right thing, because the other side of that is Pickett gets picked up. He can't play for 10 weeks.
Exactly.
So Richmond are clearly stashing him for next year, which is great for Pickett, fantastic for him, but it's not really in the spirit of what it was brought in for. I'm on the opposite side of it. I think bring it in, give teams a chance to pick. Everyone else had a chance at these blokes and they didn't pick them up the year before. So too bad, you missed out. And if it's Jai Bolton who misses out, well, unfortunately, some do fall through the cracks. Bolton probably does deserve a chance. But the rules are there to be set. Do whatever you want with your pick. Do whatever you want. Take whoever you like.
You were going well until you said Jai Bolton's as good as Tim Kelly. No, he's not. No, he's not.
I watched Tim Kelly and Jai Bolton play football together. They were on par. There was no reason why Jai Bolton's not as good as Tim Kelly.
Who would the West Coast Eagles, what do they need? He won't be available in the mid-season draft.
Oh, look, I mean,
another tall back, because we've seen that with Barris missing half the year. What happened if McGovern was to go down and Schofield plays unders, because he does, he's not a huge defender.
Yeah.
Are they one key defender short on their list?
I don't think so. I think Shepherd can play tall if he needs to. I think
But
Cole
you're
can play
making them
tall if he
play
needs
tall.
to. I think Rotham is sitting there on the
But they're
sidelines
not
waiting
tall
to play.
defenders.
Oscar Allen went back a few weeks
but
ago
then
and did a really good
You've
job.
got Jared Brando, who's desperate for game
But
time
that's
and needs
moving
to
the
play.
pieces. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about a mid-season draft. Where do you replenish your supply? Surely it has to be a key defender, because you're exactly what you're saying, that Adam and the coaching staff have to move the pieces around to fit for what they're missing.
But what happens?
That's what the mid-season draft is.
But let's
You're
say
answering your own question.
let's say right now Kennedy and Darling were a little bit sore.
Yep.
You said, oh, we need to get a forward in. So all you're saying is that just because Barris has gone down, we need a key defender. But it's purely around which players actually at the moment are missing.
I didn't say that. I said if McGovern was to go down with Barris, where are your big key defender
if Kennedy
stocks?
and Darling were to go down, where are our forward stocks?
Yeah.
Well, Oscar Allen's a start. You've already got him.
Okay,
But you don't have two key defenders.
You've got Schofield at the moment as a defender.
He's not a key
The one thing I think
defender.
we've figured out here is that they're not in desperate need of anything. There's a lot of teams who can go, right, they need a small forward because they don't have one. They need this because they don't have it. They have everything that they need. You're talking backup plans, like backups to the backup plans. Because even if they picked up the best fullback from Sandringham or East Perth or wherever they like, the guys who are going to play before them are Brander and Rotham, and as they should, because they've done the pre-season, they know the game plan, and they're young players coming through that need opportunities. So that's what would happen, realistically. If I were West Coast and I had a pick in the draft, I'd just take the best player I could and stash him, just like we just talked about. I'd take Pickett, or I'd take Bolton, or I'd take whoever I thought was the best player at the lower level that is not on an AFL list. That's what I would do, because they've got everything covered on the basic stretch.
Sydney Swans, will they go to Darling? Will they go to Kennedy? They've got to cover both, but who poses the biggest threat to them when you look at the head-to-head form that JK and now Jack Darling's in.
Well, it's funny we actually talk about Jack Darling. 3 weeks ago, our mate over here, Ryan Daniels, wanted to send him back to the waffle.
I never said that.
You did say that. You said he was out of form, okay?
I did say that.
I just give the guy...
I think I specifically said I don't believe he should play in the waffle. He's putting words in my mouth. But I reckon he watched and he was spurred
he was spurred on by Ryan Daniels' comments. Yeah.
Look, we know Jack Darling is a fantastic football player when he is up and running. But he and the team are almost at parallel. When he is flying, the team is flying, and vice versa. I'm not saying he's not a front runner by any stretch of the imagination, but when JK is getting plenty of supply and the midfield is rolling, Darling looks like the best forward in the competition. Saying that, the answer to your question, Tim, it's Josh Kennedy.
Yeah, it's still Josh Kennedy. But the thing is with Jack Darling, and we saw in the weekend, that supply battle, you get the ball inside forward 50 as much as they did. Like that third quarter, I think they had 17 inside 50s to 4. They kicked 9 goals. Those repeat inside 50 entries put so much pressure on the defenders of the opposition. Jack Darling was able to get hold of it. Kennedy was able to get hold of it. And if you looked at that third quarter in particular, what happens is, though, the Bulldogs players start being so focused on those two, and guess what? Waterman jumps up in 3 minutes, he kicks 3 goals. So they really complementing each other really well at the moment, those West Coast Eagles forwards. And the Smalls, well, they're just getting their look at the ice cream too.
Ideal 22, West Coast Eagles. They get back Barris, they get back Nat and Nui. What is the best 22? And unfortunately, 24, 25 don't go into 22. And I know, you know, as an ex-player, and everyone loves Andrew Embley, you might have to actually put your proverbials on the line here and actually drop 2 players. And don't say you don't want to drop them. You have to drop them. You're at the selection table. You've been a selector in various forms of waffle football and the like. Sit at this table now and tell the viewer to the rundown who are the 2 players to make way for Barris and Nick Nat to make your best 22.
Well, this is obviously a very difficult choice, but a good position for West Coast to be in, purely because they are going to get 2 quality players back. Nick Nat comes back. Now, my understanding is that Nick Nat's been given the all clear, and the club will probably clarify that pretty soon, that he is ready to resume playing football. So he could even play this week in the waffle. I'm not sure about that, but he's back, which is fantastic news for the Eagles. Tom Barris will come back into the side. I think at the moment, when you look at Nick Nat comes in, I think Vardy's will still ruck with him. So it's got to be one of the other tall forwards, unfortunately, that has to miss out from mine. So I don't think Oscar Allen deserves to be dropped. I think he's been outstanding. Neither does Waterman. But when you're bringing those players in, unfortunately, someone has to part way. And for mine, it's probably one of those 2.
See, this is where we'll beg to differ, because I think Vardy is a very good first ruck, and I'm not convinced he's a great second ruck.
Well, he showed in last year's grand final as a second ruck, he was outstanding, probably played his best game. So I'm not really sure where you're getting your
But that's because Nick Nat Nui wasn't there.
No, Scott Lyson was the number 1 ruckman last year.
Scott Lyson, Nick Nat Nui, no disrespect.
Vardy jumps up and took some big grabs inside that forward 50 when he was asked to play in that position.
The issue with dropping Vardy, I tend to agree with you. I think he's much better as a first ruck when he has the responsibility. The problem is, with Nick coming back off 2 knee reconstructions, he's not going to be able to ruck 85% of a game. And Oscar Allen, he's not a ruckman, he's a pinch hitter, so you can't have him rucking more than 30% in a game.
It has
so
to be
just
Vardy
by
or
sheer math, Vardy has to stay in the side.
Okay, I ask you the question again, Andrew. Drop 2 players. You have to drop 2 players.
Well, he's dropped Allen, but you need one more.
Allen and...
You've got to drop a defender.
I'd have to say Waterman, and they shuffle. Unfortunately, sorry, boys.
So Allen and Waterman out for Barris and Nick Nat. Ryan?
That was exactly what I had, because I'm denied about Schofield, but I just think he's at the point where he has to stay in this team. The obvious is take Barris in and take Schofield out, because it's like for like almost. But he's just playing too well, and unfortunately for Allen and Waterman, 2 extremely talented young forwards, if everybody's healthy, this is the best 22, and it's just a matter of reshuffling.
There it is there. That's the definitive answer. We got there eventually. Alrighty.
No thoughts for you? Just going to sit on the fence?
I've got thoughts. Don't talk about sitting on the fence. You're the great picket man of all time.
No, 2 ins and 2 outs. You made us do it.
Vardy. I would go Vardy out, because I think Allen can do more in the ruck.
Okay.
And I think Waterman, and I would shuffle.
Cool.
Geez, Waterman kicked 3 the other day in 3 minutes.
It's rough. Very rough.
It was very good.
SCG, tough place to win. Haven't won there since '99. No Eagles of this current squad have played in a winning game there. Can they turn it around? Ryan Daniels, why can West Coast win this game?
Well, firstly, an amazing stat, which I tweeted yesterday.
Love a good stat. I saw the tweet.
So the last time the Eagles won there, 1999, as you just pointed out, these are some of the names that were running around. Guy McKenna, Peter Matera, Laurie Bellotti was out
Laurie
there.
Bellotti.
Brendan Fuster, Scotty Cummings. And for the Swans, Tony Lockett and Paul Kelly combined for 7 goals. Troy Luff got a Brownlow one. It was honestly stunning. And the time before that was 1993.
Oh, no.
So it is very hard to win at the SCG. To be fair, they don't play there a lot, and they have won in Sydney at ANZ Stadium. So Sydney, don't sleep on them. They're bottom four side, but they have been playing better. West Coast will win this game because they've flicked the switch, but you cannot sleep on Sydney. We talked about Reid and Papley. If they can shut those 2 guys down, I think they win pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. I think West Coast are in a really good position to be able to win this particular game. Small ground of the SCG, you have to play contested ground, and there's no doubt the West Coast Eagles midfielders have taken more ownership to really start to control that area. And their last month's been outstanding, led by Shuey and Yo and Gaff and Redden and Dom Sheed, of course. So I think they'll win the supply battle, and if you can win the supply battle at the SCG, you get the game in your territory, and obviously with Darling and Kennedy in some really good form, I think they'll just be just too good for the Swans this week.
We all agree, yes, I think West Coast will be winning easy. Wow, we got there. Feisty as it was, thanks to AGL. No, absolutely brilliant stuff. Thanks for joining us. Well done, Wack. Well done, Ryan. Good luck to you. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time. We're going to take a well-earned break. And don't forget, you can see this on the website. You can see it on Facebook. You can see it anywhere. Thanks to the team. This has been The Rundown. Thanks to AGL. For all your energy needs, go to agl.com.au. Eagles in Sydney Sunday. Good luck.